I've not used this before, so I'm just trying it out.
Hey man, it's been too long since we sat down and that just feels wrong. Allow me to give my head a shake, open my eyes and fix a mistake. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit a rewind. You wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly. Hey buddy, no strangers here. These times I hold them dear. My door's open, so come on in. This was great, let's do it again. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit rewind. Wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit rewind. You wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly.
It's as if the heavens have decided to get emotional with us and have opened up and began to rain outside. It is storming outside. So with any luck, my internet will last longer than Optimus Prime did in Transformers the movie, which is a great segue, because that's exactly what we're talking about today. I'm hanging out with my bro. We're going to talk Transformers the movie. Specifically, we're going to talk about the death of Optimus Prime. This is a topic that has been talked to death, but we're going to give our unique perspective on it. What happened as we were growing up, how we first got introduced to Transformers the movie, and just go through our opinions. Your opinions may differ. My brother does differ. Here he is, my brother Noddzie. How are you, buddy?
Hey, bud. How are you?
Good. You look like you're wearing a Tiger Force shirt, but it says Goku, so I guess it's not G.I. Joe related. Yeah.
That's Goku.
Nice. So I'll do the clubhouse roll call real quick, and then we'll see who's hanging out in the chat with us, and we'll get into the show. Let me just find where's my clubhouse? Okay, here we are with the clubhouse roll call. If you want to be part of the clubhouse roll call, you just have to be either a member or of YouTube member or a Patreon member. And we have Wilhelm Toy and Hobby, Casey Wheeler, Handsome Man Ratface 44 Reviews, David Samuel Blaine, The Retro Tinker, Cindy K, Sunny's Sundries, Jonathan Sorensen, Happy Accident, Joshua Allen, My Buddy Go Figure, Scuba Pete, My Buddy Phil from Treasures for Trigger, Hans Chow, the legendary man who kicks doors in, Ken Poe, Brendan Haley, good legend that one, Jason Clark, and Space Commander. And the clubhouse members, Cindy K, Gaz, Better Ray Bob, Spacey, Jason Stillwell, it's Chad, Ryan Sweeney, and Keep on Collecting. Thank you to all those legends. There's a few legends already here in the chat, so I'd say a quick hello to them. More than meets the eye. Well, I hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be just more of the same. Good to see you, my brother from another mother. Aaron, how are you, mate? Happy Sunday to you too. Facebook user. I often wonder when the Facebook users don't use their real names because they're incognito. So this may well be Stan Bush, the musical legend from the soundtrack of Transformers the movie. So how are you, Stan Bush? Thank you for joining us. What an absolute pleasure. Johnny Sorensen, how are you, my man? Good to see you. We hung out recently, talked about Westerns. And it's Andrew. How are you, Andrew? Andrew's hanging out with Stan Bush over at Facebook. Good to see you, bud. So, Noddzie, my first, and tell me if your recollection is the same as mine, but my first, we didn't have it in the cinemas as far as I'm aware. We just had it VHS, right? I don't ever remember it being in the cinema. I know it did have a small cinema run. Not here necessarily, but, worldwide. I remember going to a dad's or mum and dad's friends or a work party to do with dad, and all the kids were gathered in the lounge room, and they were watching what looked like Transformers, right? They're well into the VHS at this point, and it looks like Transformers to me, but none of these characters are recognizable. And so I sit down and I go, what is this? They go, it's Transformers. I was like, well, where's Optimus Prime? And they go, he's dead. I was like, what? No, he's not. He is not dead. No, this is ridiculous. I thought they were being bullies, and it ruined my day. Ruined. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it at all. But then later on, we got the VHS, and it may have been at the time where Dad was working part-time at a video store. We got the VHS, and we sat there, and I had this sense of dread in my chest, right? Because they told me he died, and I didn't want to believe it. And then it gets to the punch, because there's the legendary Optimus Prime, living legend, animated. But there he is, alive and well at the beginning. I was like, okay, everything's good so far. But if what they say is true, there is dread on the horizon. This is the opposite of dread. And we have TJC. You light up my life, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. He's got a great show too. A lot of people in the chat today that also have really great shows, so do go check them out. Does that align with your experience of the movie, Todd, or do you have a slightly different experience?
I remember, so it was the night, I think it was going away party, because we were leaving Catherine to head back to Alice Springs. And It was like a kind of like a shack, like an old shacky place. There was a downstairs areas for the kids. It was like a games room. I remember going in there, and
it's a shack. It's a shack with a kid's dungeon, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. So parents upstairs getting on the alcohol, and us kids are downstairs. So I think we went in, and it was already playing to an extent where, as you said, Optimus Prime had died. But I have a memory of like we made them rewind it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that. I may have stepped out and be like, no, I don't want any part of this, and left. But I don't remember seeing it on that night.
I think we got into the point, and if my memory recalls, it was when the Unicron had already turned Megatron into Galvatron, and the ship was coming out.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And I think that's when we came in. But then after that, we never watched it at the movies. I don't remember watching like adverts or anything like that. Didn't even know until we went to this party, and boom.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember having any sort of memory or recollection of it coming out pre us seeing it. I didn't see any lead up to it. This is pre-internet, obviously, but I don't even remember anything on the street. No kids in the playground were talking about it. They were talking about Transformers for sure. But I'll tell you what, they were talking about it after the VHS came out. It was a hot topic. So we will go through the heroic Optimus Prime. We're gonna be doing a few short live streams in the next coming weeks. This one is very Optimus Prime heavy, and it does get a little bit heavy emotionally for me. But then we're gonna, as we go further into this Transformers the movie deep dive. We'll talk about some other aspects of it, not all of it to do with death, some of it to do with change and life and so forth and so on. But this one's very Optimus Prime specific. And so he shows up in the beginning, pretty much just giving orders, right? He gives orders to Ironhide to head to Earth.
There was a super big jump though. So from the cartoon series to the movie, it was, as watching it like when we were kids, it was confusing.
Yeah. Well, there was two different versions that were released. One that I think America and Canada got. Adam, if you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I think Canada got this version too, where it was all the names of the actors were splashed on the title screen, right? But for us in Australia, what we had was like a Star Wars style text
Star
crawl,
Warsy one.
giving us the what had happened and the year that the Civil War and all of that sort of cool Star Warsy sort of stuff. So that after the text crawl happens, then it leads into the years 2005, right? The future to the like a version. Yeah. So there's a couple of versions out there. I wasn't even aware that there was a different version. Yes, that's the version we got. No text crawl. Adam, have you seen the text crawl version? And if you have you got a preference? Because I do prefer the text scroll Star Wars style.
Yeah.
However, that may be just because that's what I was used to, right? Yeah. I don't know. So we get to there's a we all know what happened. There's no point rehashing all of it. So we're going to jump cut. We're going to jump cut just like the movie did to the year 2005. We're going to jump cut to this epic, heroic moment, no matter the cost.
This is when the soundtrack just goes excellent.
Text crawl made more sense. I agree. Oh, and TJC with his UK expertise is saying, in the UK comics continuity, Ultra Magnus was created as the spearhead to the mass uprising of the Autobots on Cybertron against the Decepticon forces. Operation Volcano. Excuse me, I need to take a drink after that. Woo. It's no sugar, so it's healthy. Thank you for that insight. So I consider this to be Optimus Prime's John Wayne moment, right? I mean, he has sort of like a John Wayne style to him, in my opinion, anyway. My favorite Autobot is in the background. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I would say Hound, but my favorite is also in the background. And
Also Hound. Great choice.
Sunstreaker.
Sunstreaker. Why Sunstreaker?
I always liked his cockiness and his awesomeness, and plus he was like a Countach or whatever that's called, the Lamborghini.
I like that he had a different transformation style to Sideswipe, while largely being the same car. We have another fan of Sunstreaker.
He had super big hands.
The toy.
Yeah.
Oh man, I might be Lambo. I might be alone here on my love for Hound. So Hound started off being the primary Autobot as opposed to Bumblebee, and they changed that later on to be a very Bumblebee heavy show. But he was hanging out with Spike long before Bumblebee was.
Yeah, I remember that episode too. The one where they capture Ravage.
Yeah. So that was I think the first 3 episodes are very Hound heavy. I'm getting over a bit of a cough and a cold, Todd. So I apologize if I'm coughing a little bit.
You're fine, man. Like 1.25 of Coke.
Yeah, you got to have a biggie. Sunstreaker and Sideswipe, the twin brothers. How are they twins? How does that work in the Transformers universe?
I'd say they're brothers, but they're not twins. Twins are they're not
identical. They don't have to be identical. They don't have to be identical.
No. So they probably are twins, they're just not identical.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to discuss this later, Adam. We're gonna have a conversation about Hound later. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of Hound, which I think would have been great if they included Hound with Sergeant Slaughter if they're going to do that Transformers thing instead of Cup. But we'll see if any of that happens. So here we are, right? And at this point, I'm as a kid, I'm sitting there going, "Oh, okay, Prime's going to kick some butt now, right?" You can just tell he's got that stance, he's got that bravery. But then he does have that ominous line, which is Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost. And I'm like, oh, it is gonna happen. I can just feel it. I've got dread and I can feel the anxiety building up, and even after, and we know what happens to Prime, but we will get there. But even after that,
I like the
sometimes
way that they add up to this. So like they send in the Dinobots, and the Dinobots fail completely.
right.
And it just leads up to this moment where you know that he's going to change everything.
I think the good thing about Devastator devastating the Dinobots is that it really it gives Devastator a little bit more that fear factor around him, and it also makes us go, oh damn, all right, even the Dinobots have been knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
But the testament of a good video is its rewatchability, but also knowing what's going to happen, but still hoping and praying that this time in the rewatch, something different's going to happen, right? You know it's not. You're like, oh, please, this time, please. A young Zazel show. I can barely put together an adult Zazel show, so let's. I don't think so. So, excuse me. The standoff of all standoffs.
There was a deleted scene that was supposed to be put in before this that shows some of the other Transformers going against Megatron.
Right. Yep.
To lead into this part.
There's actually, I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but there's a guy that's putting together all of these deleted scenes and animating them.
Yeah, I like him. He's done some excellent work.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Now, up until this point, Optimus Prime has transformed into truck mode, plowed through a plethora of Decepticons. I love the reflection.
Yeah.
I think it's Dirge. Is it? No, maybe it's Ramjet. I'm trying to remember which one.
I think it's Ramjet on the grill.
No, I think it's Thrust. But you see the reflection of him before he hits him and then sends him flying. But when I first saw that, I thought for some reason he had a Decepticon within his chest. Before I realized it was a reflection, I was like, how did he get in there? But he plows through them before he transforms, and he launches with flame effects up into the sky, and then mows down more it's like a classic Western standoff.
The movie is the only time that you actually see their weapons actually doing more harm than normal.
Right. Yeah.
Like you see like Decepticons shooting Autobots, and it's like tis just a wound.
Right.
Like, this is the first time that you see damage.
Yeah, and there's a big argument about the Brawn and how Brawn was taken down easily, considering the amount of damage he's been able to take previously. But we will get into the other Autobots in another show. We will do a look at the death of the other bots. But we're very Prime heavy today. TJC saying the Dinobots were strong, but even their combined might wasn't enough to defeat Shockwave. Only Optimus Prime was strong enough to get the job done. Again, this is from the UK comic. Thank you for your UK insights, buddy. I appreciate that. Facebook user, he said, or she said, I always thought that too. Was that the Decepticon inside Optimus Prime's
probably
truck? Yeah. Shockwave UK was a stone cold stunner. Yeah, he was.
The first Optimus Prime Power Master.
So
Power Masters with them in the
right,
chest.
yeah.
The engine.
So the first Power Master was Thrust, and then he was thrust into space. So here he is, the standoff, and he just I knew that. Is that still Andrew, or is that still Andrew, or is this Stan Bush?
Stan Bush.
So the standoff against Megatron, the more you look at it, the more complicated that fight gets. It's not as straightforward as they go up against each other and and then it's climactic. It's actually a little bit more intricate than that. And we'll get into that. The worst part of modern sci-fi is there's no telling how much damage a laser beam or energy blast actually does. There's no urgency, not like a Western shootout. However, I will say the old classic Westerns could portray a great shootout without the need for blood. So they could show, and then it's how they react to it back in, sometimes it'll just be like, oh, but still good old classic fun. Lazy beam. Yeah, exactly. So the death of Optimus Prime is a little bit more complicated than it looks, right? So there's also an argument to say that Prime was able to be defeated by Megatron, whereas Megatron lived in whatever state he lived in and then was reborn as Galvatron. Whether or not he would have died in the in space, only the writers of the movie.
He would have made his way to some planet and survived.
Right. So Megatron survived. Optimus Prime died.
Yeah.
That is the clear cut way of putting it, but it is more complicated than that, as we'll get into, because Optimus Prime was mortally wounded, but it wasn't just mortally wounded at the end. It was a very clear way that Megatron set these wounds in motion for them. Strategic wounds in order for him to be mortally wounded. Now, I call this the wounds that lead up to the mortal wounds. So the first wound being throwing a chunk of shrapnel into the side of Prime. So at this stage, Prime, it's pretty much tit for tat. Prime kind of has the upper hand every now and again, and any time that Prime seems to get the upper hand, Megatron decides he's going to cheat a little, right? As you would expect. Actually, the first Power Masters were Darkwing and Dreadwing. They also combined to form Dreadwing. There you go. You know what they say?
Because knowing is half the battle.
Space Commando.
And thankfully, TJC is here to give us some of this UK-specific knowledge that we may or may not be familiar with. And I'm not familiar with a lot of the UK stuff. And the lesser-known characters, to me, lesser-known characters like Darkwing and Dreadwing, sounds like Darkwing Duck. So this is the first wound. A little bit of shrapnel thrust into the side of Optimus Prime. And I like that Prime removes the weapon,
yep,
and then he throws it away. And when I first saw it, I thought that he was going to use it, but he just throws it away because that's not Prime's style, right?
This would have been a good time to reuse his battle axe,
right,
that he had from the first episode. This would be the perfect time to I've got an axe.
There was also a moment where, because when he pulls it out, it starts to spark, and when Megatron comes at him with the next weapon, the Lather Thord or lightsaber image provided by TF Source, apparently.
This thing was epic. I loved that sword. I thought it was awesome.
Right, and it's a better hand weapon than his flail or mace or whatever it's called, because he's got a little bit more. He's got some more. He can be more specific with his maneuvers. But he hits him again, and he hits him again in the same spot. And as he's holding this wound, Megatron jumps for him, it's almost as if he's pulled out. I thought back in those days that he pulled out his own weapon and used that against Megatron. But this is his second wound leading to his mortal wound. And as you can see, he strikes him again in the same place. right? So it is clear and precise. He knows he's opened up the cab of Prime, and now he's like, this is my opening. This is where I'm going to strike.
And you can tell it hurts. It looks like it hurts.
Right, the bellowing smoke, quite like when Prowl is decimated. You see that bellowing smoke come out of his mouth, which is probably the we'll get into that one day. One of the most visually
Horrible
frightening.
Autobot deaths.
That is the most horrible. Like, he melts from the inside out. It's so messed up. So, and just to reiterate, Megatron's lost his fusion cannon. Prime has lost his. What's his gun called? What's Optimus Prime's gun? Anyway, he's lost that one. Oh, yeah. Should he have left it in? Maybe. He did leave it open for a second attack. So then, the second wound, because there's several wounds that lead to his demise. Second wound being the laser sword to the side, opening up the same wound, and then some very, very strategic shots using Hot Rod as a human shield. Megatron opens fire, hitting him in that same spot. One blast to the face, just for good measure, which takes him off his feet. But then he pretty much.
See, some people say it's Hot Rod's fault. I like to think that if Hot Rod didn't jump in, Optimus Prime would have been straight, boom, dead, straight then.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think Space Commander would have something to say about this. If they use the Disney idea, you can survive a lightsaber wound as long as you aren't Qui-Gon. Yeah, that's pretty sad. Poor Qui-Gon. If only had waited just a few more minutes, he would have seen that Disney could have come to the rescue. Yeah, that's sad. But yeah, so he gets blasted a few more times, thus making the wound fatal, which leads us to our final wound, the one that wounds us.
Yep.
The long, drawn-out death of Optimus Prime. All right, this isn't just a he's gone. This is we are watching this transition. We are watching the transition from our hero being alive and being heroic to slowly, as Perceptor says, that the wounds are fatal. We slowly watch the life drain out of Optimus Prime. He says, "Do not grieve," but I can't help it, Todd. I'm grieving. He says not to.
I think you were more upset about that than I was. It was upsetting, don't get me wrong. And, watching a robot that you care about just go grey and die and everything like that, I think you were a little bit more upset than I was.
I cried, Todd. I'm not afraid to admit it. I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I didn't want to believe that it was going to happen, right? First viewing, I was like, oh, please. Like, they ended up, so on our VHS copies in Australia, and I don't think that they had this in Canada or the US. And again, Adam, if you're there, let me know if you had this in your copy. But at the end, they tagged on Optimus Prime will return.
Oh, yeah.
So that gave me a little bit of hope. And then what do? They bring him back only to kill him again, only to have to bring him back again.
So I think the Optimus Prime will return was put onto the VHS because of all the letters that they got for killing Optimus to start off with.
Right.
So they put that on the VHS, so like something for kids to look forward to. But I like the fact that they killed off Optimus. He did his job, and I was more upset about the death of Starscream than death of Optimus.
We'll touch on Starscream on another stream as well. But Lowell Lucas Jr. is with you on that one, Todd, where he's like, called me crazy, but Prime's death never bothered me as a kid. It just showed how badass Transformers was and the severity of war. Then again, I'm pro Decepticon. Well, you lost a few Decepticons in the war too. We saw that he will not return on the VHS, but not in the theaters. Hey, here we are. There's a wealth of knowledge. How are you, buddy? So, it did. It hit me hard, and it's not just that he's dying. It's the music behind it. I'm getting choked up now. I swear it's because I have a cold, not because I'm about to cry. Hang on.
Just the way his head just collapsed sideways, and oh my god, it is sad.
The color doesn't just drain. The color doesn't just drain away from Prime. His eyes become hollow and empty, and it's just like Ultra Magnus. Now, I think Ultra Magnus is a pretty cool character. However, him haphazardly just chucking the Matrix into his chest, like, what are you doing, buddy?
I think he calls himself Ultra Magnus, where everyone else in that movie just calls him Magnus.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder. No, Prime calls him Ultra Magnus for sure. Actually, Perceptor calls him Ultra Magnus too.
Does he?
Yeah, he's like Ultra Magnus, curse of the blah blah blah.
Just calls him Magnus. Galvatron just calls him Magnus because there's nothing ultra about him. He's just Optimus in armor.
Do you think? Because there's a lot of. We'll go through one of the animation changes in another episode too, which I think would be a good deep dive to see that.
The colors that they used for because it would have made more sense going into this movie. Like, I didn't find out about Scramble City until the internet.
Yeah, I didn't until the DVD is when I saw it, when they added it to the DVD. Well, quick hello to G.I. Joe, The Lost Chronicles. There's no crying in Transformers! Anyway,
if we watched Scrambled City beforehand, even though that was very Combiner heavy, we may have got a little bit more understanding about Ultra Magnus, what his role was, because he just seemed like he just came out of nowhere. How old of a friend is he?
So another, yeah. Where did he come from? Well, I mean, that's pretty standard though. When you look at season 2, or is it the continuation? I always get confused over which one's season 2. But if you look at the continuation of Transformers, they do drop in some other characters that weren't properly introduced, and we give that a pass. Perceptor being a character that was introduced without warning.
Blaster.
We give that a pass. Blaster, Beachcomber. We give all these characters a pass, but when it comes to Transformers the movie, we're like, where did these guys come from? Where have they been this whole time? Well, there was a whole war still happening on Cybertron, right? So the Lilith is saying Springer is true leader. We don't need some youngling taking over. I always thought Springer had a very Han Solo vibe about him, whereas Hot Rod was the Skywalker, which I think is
And where is Springer right now?
Well, I mean, probably cleanup duty. He's got better things to do tonight than die. Now, if you noticed, when Hot Rod caught the dropped Matrix, it glowed really brightly, which I always thought was a tease to the ending. True.
Yeah, that was a good nod. Yeah, I thought that is
true. So I think, for the Optimus Prime Will Return tagline, that was for the UK release in theaters and later set in VHS copies. There we are. There was a Marvel video release without the line at the end. And he does, Optimus Prime will return as a zombie. Yeah. And then he'll die again.
That's another story that we'll go into as well. I love Hot Rod. I thought that he was a good addition to the movie. But after the movie, then he just hits to the wayside after that.
So the problem I find with, I'll go through this comment first. Ultra Magnus first appeared in the Japanese-only episode called Scramble City. Looks great. Yep. And he even featured the Combiners, along with Trypticon and Metroplex. I do like that they changed the colors from, if you look at the original trailer for Transformers the movie, I do like that they've changed the colors and some of the animation style. And,
I think the colors that they used was from the Japanese, the Takara toy that they had out before the movie. So they changed for the American market.
Probably the Takara version. Takara.
Kokoro.
TJC says Perceptor, Blaster, Beachcomber, they were all led by Perceptor and Cybertron as a small band of Autobot resistance according to the UK comic continuity. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
What was the U?
Because knowing is half the battle.
Space Commando.
Sorry, Todd, I couldn't help myself. Sorry, mate. I couldn't help myself.
What was the UFO? What was his name? The green UFO.
Cosmos.
Yes. All right. So
Yeah.
he was one as well, wasn't he? He just popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah, pops up out of nowhere. I think the best one to pop up out of nowhere was Blaster because it really did give Soundwave a foil.
Yeah.
Gotta go, bros. Love yous. Thanks, buddy. Good to see ya. Wonder if that was Adam.
Maybe.
Adam has a tendency to get on the Facebook Live and not tell me it's him.
Oh, okay. It was probably Stan Bush again.
It was Stan Bush. Who would you all have chose as leader instead of Ultra Magnus?
Springer. If not Hot Rod, it would have been Springer.
So, that's the point we were going to make. It's a me. Thought so. Well, then where have you got to go? Where have you got to go that's better than here? Who would we have chosen if it weren't Ultra Magnus? Good question. So I think after the movie, Ultra Magnus does sort of become a mentor for Rodimus.
Rodimus, yeah.
Rodimus never really truly. I don't think Rodimus ever truly finds his feet because as soon as he can get rid of the Matrix, he does. Right
Yeah.
now, leadership is a tough thing, right? And it can be a roller coaster ride. You could be doing well, and then take a dip, right? And that's fine. Part of leadership is learning, when you need to have people around you to help, rather than be the one to do all the work. It's trusting in your fellow Autobots, but he never really believes in himself. And as soon as he can, he reverts back to Hot Rod at any given moment. Now, the matrix of leadership, I think,
that's like any adult though. Like we all want to go back to our youth and enjoy our youth. If we had a chance to take a matrix out of our chest and give it away to someone more responsible, we probably all would.
Yeah, I feel like for Hot Rod, I think they get confused on what the Matrix actually does, because they always make it seem like it's a transformational tool, right? It transformed Hot Rod into Rodimus Prime, but that was only because of a
situation with
So there was like that. What's the word? The myth of the Matrix is that it'll light their darkest hour, which it does.
I think it transformed Hot Rod into Rodimus because without that transformation, he wouldn't stand a chance against Galvatron. So
right, but it's not something. But it's not something that's always going to change somebody, right? It doesn't change Ultra Magnus. It doesn't change Optimus Prime. It gives you knowledge, right? It's a piece of knowledge. It's a library of knowledge, wisdom of the ages, right? But not everybody who has the Matrix is going to transform into a Prime.
Yeah.
And I think that it's weird that when he loses the Matrix, he reverts back to Hot Rod. I think that was just a way to sell more Hot Rod toys.
Probably.
But if I was going to choose another leader of Ultra Magnus, who would I have chose? Well, Ironhide would have been a good choice, but he obviously bit the dust. But I guess if we were going to go with the newer ones,
definitely not Bumblebee.
No, not Bumblebee.
No.
I guess I don't know. Like Hot Rod's not a bad choice. I like the hero's journey of Hot Rod. I just think, but by the end of it, and when they go into the next seasons, they don't really lean into that enough.
See, what confuses me with this picture here is, okay, so Optimus Prime had a couple of shots to the side of his gut, and he's turned grey. Ultra Magnus gets exploded into multiple parts,
Right.
Does not turn grey, and can come back together. Why didn't they all just grab Optimus Prime, take him to the Junkticons or whatever they're called, the Junkions, and get them to refix Optimus. If they can do it to Ultra Magnus that was exploded, I'm sure that they'll be able to fix Optimus Prime.
You know what would have been a good twist? Jetfire would be cool, but I don't see him as a leader. What would have been a good twist is if
Fast run.
I'm thinking Megatron. Megatron, after everything that happened with Unicron and becomes Galvatron, he flips on the whole Unicron thing and decides to lead the Autobots, and then they can like basically ending the war, like end the war of the Autobots and the Decepticons, and now led by Galvatron, the new leader of whatever faction they decide to call themselves. They don't need to be Autobots or Decepticons anymore. And then have a whole new bad guy, because then you can just introduce something different now, and then maybe that would have maybe create a new third faction. I'm not sure, but that would be
one of the big bad guys during the season, like after the movie seasons, was the Quintessons. So you could have had the Quintessons as like the big baddies.
Right. You got some agreements there, and Grimlock would have been a good choice, or Cup, but I don't know. Just to really spin it, put Galvatron in the leader's position.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, yeah, and then you could have like all the Transformers uniting against the Quintessons.
Oh yeah, so yeah, when they do bring back Prime, it's decided that through some retroactive changes that the Quintessons built Prime.
Yeah.
So they were the only ones able to put him back together. But I think Ultra Magnus fits in the category of he wasn't killed; he was just pulled apart. And even Optimus Prime had been pulled apart and put back together again. At one point, he was pulled apart and turned into an alligator. So
yes, true.
And like no one knows Galvatron is Megatron.
Starscream does.
Starscream definitely does. I think in the first episode of the, I think it's season 3 that happens after the movie, the Decepticons are all aware that it was Megatron, and there's a line where someone says, well, you know, it's both the same. Megatron and Galvatron, it's the same thing. I think they made him a bit weird after the movie, but I'm not sure if, because Ultra Magnus definitely doesn't know, because he was like, you would die trying just like Megatron. So they all think Megatron's dead. So that's a good point. No one knows Galvatron is Megatron. Galvatron could have come in. Imagine that. Imagine that for the next season, right? Nobody knows that Galvatron is Megatron except for the Decepticons, right? They've formed one faction, and then Galvatron's got to lead this new super faction, knowing that he used to be the one that actually put Prime to death, you know, and decimated Autobot City, and now is in that leadership position. Now that is a real struggle of leadership. That would have been cool. Yeah. I agree, Facebook user. I agree with myself. That was a great idea by me. Magnus steps up in season 3 when Hot Rod or Not Rod drops the ball. And again, leadership is tricky, right? Because it does require a certain level of trust and faith, and you know, the ability to let things be, you know, let things fall as they fall, but be there to help pick up the pieces. Who could I be? Who could it be now? I think it's Stan Bush. We already established it.
Stan Bush.
Was it Sargatron? Yeah. Right? Bring in the Sarge. Could you imagine if Sarge came in and did a voice for Transformers? Imagine if it was a voice of Cup. I do like the voice of Cup already.
That would have been pretty good.
That would have been cool. He was in the original Transformers crossover. G.I. Joe Transformers crossover,
comic
which is
book?
pretty cool. Yeah. So we've passed on the matrix of leadership, and who is Stan Bush? That's exactly what Stan Bush would say. If I was Stan Bush and I was incognito in the chat section of Facebook, hidden under Facebook user, that's exactly what I would say. I am only more convinced that it is actually Stan Bush. And I thank you and welcome you to our stream. Thank you for being here, Stan Bush. You've got the touch. Yeah, you've got the power. You know that when things get too tough, you've got the touch.
Nice work.
Thanks, mate. That's pretty good. Who do you think is the worst new character that they introduced in G.I. Joe the movie? We all know who the worst one they introduced in G.I. Joe the movie. But in Transformers the movie, who do you think the worst character they introduced was?
Well, everybody would probably agree that Wheelie isn't the... He was cool in the movie, and it was unique, the little rhyming and stuff like that. But after the movie, it got annoying. Yeah,
a little bit.
So he's probably the worst. But yeah, I like RC. I thought RC was a good separation from just all male robots.
How are you, Phil? Well, we'd had female robots before RC came along.
Yeah.
They just weren't main. They just weren't main players. They were bit players.
But RC pretty much is just Daniel's babysitter.
It does tend until they're on the junk planet, and then everyone bails on Daniel. Everyone just bails on Daniel, and they go, figure this suit out. Transform.
Blur transforms and just shoots off.
Yeah. And Blur was the voiced by the Micro Machines guy.
Yeah, the fastest speaker in the whole entire world at that stage.
Yeah. But, I don't know. So people do sort of jump on Wheelie, but I liked Wheelie as a kid.
I didn't mind. I wasn't a fan of the toy as much. It very strayed away from the look, but yeah, it wasn't as bad as the series. I liked him in the movie. The Dinobots were annoying in the movie towards like when they were on the Quintesson planet, complaining about pepperoni and bologna.
I don't know. I kind of like that. Because they're like siblings, right? We would act the same way. Me, you, and Stan Bush. We would act the same way. We just say stupid shit. Yeah, they should have left him on there. Photo Viper, Blur and Hot Rod were the worst. See, if you know Wheelie's not that bad, if Blur and Hot Rod are considered the worst. But I think Daniel gets a bad rap. Wheelie and Hot Rod, because I just don't think, and shout it out loud like Rob Vegas would. Shout it out loud in the comments if you agree with this, right? None of the new characters that they introduced were as good or as cool as the original Autobots. Right? I feel like anyone on the original roster of the Autobots, anyone, maybe not Gears, but just about everybody else, way cooler than any of these other newcomers, right? I love the concept of Blur. I love the concept of RC. I love Cup. Cup probably being my favorite of the new Autobots. I had Cup as a kid.
Yeah, that was your favorite as a kid.
Yeah. Stringer was Boss. Springer or Stringer?
Yeah. I liked Springer.
Yeah, Springer was cool.
Cool design. I like the whole triple changer.
So Stan Bush says, I loved Wheelie, and you did too, Todd. He's calling you out. You had it, and you wouldn't let me play with it. You wouldn't let Stan Bush play with your Wheelie? You know, the thing about Wheelie, right, and it doesn't translate into toy form, unfortunately, but when he transforms, his head kind of looks like a cap, like a ball cap, like a Space Commander cap.
Yeah.
But the toy, it's like the cockpit opens up and it's just up.
Yeah.
Which means that anyone that jumps in Wheelie is going to be sitting on his face.
Which isn't probably bad for him.
Just let him play with your Wheelie.
No.
I think when we had a favorite as kids, when we were playing, if we had a favorite character, nobody else was playing as that character. Right? And if you weren't playing with it, nobody was playing with it even still. Right?
No. And I think I had a majority of like the the Transformers. We didn't have a lot of the G1 though. I think we had like maybe a Starscream.
Yeah.
But I don't think we had an awful lot of G1 Transformers. We had a lot of the movie Transformers.
So I think for me, I remember seeing at the deli. I remember seeing at the deli near our house Ironhide, and thinking, nah, like that's not Ironhide. So I remember seeing Ironhide and going, nope, I'm not touching that. But a lot of them, like I guess some of them would have also been what was available to us in the towns that we were living in.
Yeah.
Right. So, being in smaller towns in the top end of Australia, we probably weren't able to get a lot of these ones, and we just got what was available. So we had a lot of the mini bots.
I remember seeing a Prowl in Adelaide in some country store.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember ever seeing like an Optimus Prime or.
I think it was also because you had to pick and choose. Like, am I going to get a Transformer, a G.I. Joe, or a He-Man? Like they were dropping at a time where you really had to pick. Like, what was going to be my favorite? Dumb question. Was Autobot City Metroplex untransformed? That's not a dumb question. That's actually a really interesting question. And I think that the premise of it was that it was Metroplex and that he didn't have his transformation.
Scramble City, it kind of like suggests that it is Metroplex.
Right. And without his transformation cog, he was unable to transform and join the fight. Right? Am I right or am I wrong?
I think so. But yeah, if you look at the Autobot City at that stage, it's that orangey color that they use for all their tech.
Oh, yeah.
And Metroplex was white, so it could be, it may be, who knows.
Hot Rod was also as cool as the original G1 crew.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I like the look of him. I like the look of him in the cartoon more than I like the look of him as a toy.
Oh, I love that toy. Rodimus, on the other hand, didn't look as cool as the Hot Rod toy.
I agree. Not a dumb question. I had the mini bots. They were more affordable for my parents. Jetfire for Christmas. What a great Christmas that would have been. Yeah, but the mini bots were cool. Beachcomber was cool. Cliff Jumper was cool. I like that. Okay. Bumblebee was okay. Like whenever they gave them a faceplate and they didn't have it in the cartoon, bugged me. Sandstorm in the cartoon doesn't have a faceplate, toy does. Bumblebee doesn't have a faceplate, toy does. Later on in the comics, they made it so that it was like a battle mask. I thought that was pretty cool. Springer took over the Wreckers after Impactor was killed. I've got to check out these comics.
Yeah, the Wreckers are pretty good. Wasn't Cup a leader of the Wreckers at one stage as well? Because he went crazy. He went crazy and started killing Autobots and then left and became the leader of the Wreckers as well.
So I feel like at this point in the movie, it's really a gut punch, right?
Yeah.
And they let you sit with it for a while, like longer than you would expect a kid's movie to sit with this topic. And then
every other death was quick.
Right. Yeah, like yes, they didn't sit on because of the nature of the war. I mean, even there were some deaths that happened off screen, like Wheeljack and what's his name? Who's the other guy that died with Wheeljack?
Red and Black. What's his name?
What is his name? Why is that slipping my mind? Someone help me out here. Someone bail me out in the comment section. Who was with Wheeljack?
I liked Wheeljack, so I was kind of like happy that I didn't actually see the death of Wheeljack.
I like that it was there, but they couldn't do anything about it, so they were continuing to defend the city.
Yeah.
Wheeljack and somebody else. Come on, someone knows it.
Mainframe? No.
Wind Charger, thank you.
Wind Charger.
Hot Pursuit, nice try. It really is. It's so hard to find a good picture of Beachcomber version 2. It's almost like you have to take a picture of a picture. It's so weird. Metroplex was dormant underneath Autobot City, which allowed it to transform. The UK Comic Explainers. Oh, because they had to manually transform the city, which I think looks pretty cool too. Like all those turn dials and stuff, and everything opening up, which is good to know that they have a fail safe too, right? It's like we need this city for our defense, but they ended up breaching that. Now he's really got to go. Stan Bush has really got to go, guys. So thank you for tuning in, Stan Bush.
Love you,
We
Stan
hope to
Bush.
have you back again. Considering you said you're going to go to bed 30 minutes ago, we appreciate you hanging out for a bit longer.
I feel really bad now that I didn't let Stan Bush play with my wheelie.
Yeah, right. You could have let him have a touch.
Exactly, just a little touch.
So he is Autobot City. They explained it in the Japanese Headmasters show. And they lost his transformation cog for a while. I did like that Japanese version. It got his own Scrambled City special in Japan. Yeah. Being a leftover Diaclone design, they struggled to incorporate him into the G1 lore. Should have been in the movie. Also missing most of the combis. Yeah. You got the touch. I knew it was him. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, Stan Bush. We do appreciate it. But they linger on this. They linger on this scene. Oh, thanks for hanging out, buddy. I appreciate it. This is going to be one of many casual catch-ups with the brothers, just talking about random stuff. It just happens to be Transformers for now. Jeez, that's his full name.
Full Bush.
It's the only way to find one. It is the only way. So we will wrap it up. But in conclusion, Optimus Prime's death was a heavy hitter. Probably the first time children had to really face death and what that means, and the feelings and the emotions and that.
A lot harder to deal with than Duke.
Well, they reversed the Duke. They brought him. They said that he's just in a coma, man. He's just in the coma, and then I guess they reversed the Prime thing too. I think if they just bringing him back twice is just weird. I don't know why they brought him back just to kill him again as a zombie. That's so wild. It's like we've traumatized the kids. We're gonna have to do it again. But I wanted to, because I wanted to do further conversations about Transformers the movie, but I wanted to get the death of Prime out of the way first because it was the most impactful thing. But we are going to go and have a look at some other things as well, Todd, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
So one of the first things we want to do on another live stream, and it'd just be casual catch-ups like this, just chilling and chatting. Another one we're going to do is we're going to look at the soundtrack of a generation with the movie soundtrack with Stan Bush, front and center. This is a great image of Transformers the movie too, and I love that Hot Rod. Hot Rod is, or is that Rodimus Prime in the background, just like, you stay back there. Let's give Ultra Magnus front and center. I also like that everyone.
So it didn't give anything away. I reckon they used the Ultra Magnus.
Yeah, but it also I like how everyone's holding their weapons in a slightly different way.
I wonder what song they actually paused that on.
Good question. Great chat. Yeah, because it's partway through, right? You know what?
Yeah,
we're going to have to figure this out. What song did they stop on? Great chat, guys. Heck of a way to spend the morning before church. I'll be tuning in to Adam's church's live stream. I check it in any way I can. However, if anyone out there has a copy of the not the VHS, if anyone has a cassette tape of Transformers the movie, can they pause it on this moment, look at where the tape is, and let us know what the last song they listened to was? Need to get my Transformer fix here. Help build my knowledge. Yeah, so that's what we plan on doing. I wanted to go through Prime first, just to knock that one on the head. But then we're going to touch on more specific moments in the movie, just because we want to, not because the information isn't already out there. The information is out there, but we want to talk a little bit about our memories of it and our perspective on it and our opinions on it, and hang out with you guys as well in the chat. But we're also going to take a look at in the next one. What are we looking at here, Todd?
Oh, that's just some of my Transformers the movie figures.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So there's like some third party in the background. There's some third party I've got heaps of third party from the movie. I've got like when it comes to like Transformers, a lot of like Hot Rod and Blur and Cup from different lines. A lot of Starscream.
Yeah, that look cool.
So these are just like some of the ones that I picked up along the way of the studio series, and like there's a couple of ones that need to be like updated, like the Ultra Magnus, Springer. When they do that, I need to get a couple more of the Dinobots.
Well, they did update Ultra Magnus, but you weren't a big fan of the one they just brought out.
No, it's too big. It's like it towers over the Dinobots, so it doesn't scale as well, I think. It's a beautiful figure. It's expensive, as all balls here. But yeah.
Does Fozzie Bear transform?
No, that's the little Macca's toys. Was it Macca's that did the little the little Muppet babies?
Yeah, was that a McDonald's Happy Meal toy?
Yeah, and same with the Agro's Cartoon Connection. There's an Agro next to Gonzo.
Mate, you and me both. It's not a cheap hobby. It never really was a cheap hobby, but I'm priced out of a lot of action figures right now. I'm like, no, not happening.
A lot of like the Sharkticons and stuff I got on clearance. They were like a toy shop that was closing. They were cheap as balls. But yeah.
I knew Lilith would know. McDonald's had them. But thanks to everyone that was hanging out in the chat. Like I said, we're not breaking new ground here. We're just hanging out and chilling and chatting. So if you want to chill and chat with us again next time, we're either gonna what do we reckon, Todd? We're gonna do your collection or we're gonna do the soundtrack. Which one would you like to do next?
We do the soundtrack first.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. Interesting fact about the soundtrack is one of the songs on there was first performed by Aussie's own John Farnham. Did you know that?
I did not know that. What was that?
We will find out. Knowledge is power. But we will find out. We'll discuss that in our next episode.
Was it before he cancelled his touring on multiple times?
Has he done that?
Yeah, he said this is my last tour. Like every single tour is his last tour.
It's a final tour. This was before he made it really big.
I do love John Farnham.
He has a lot of G1 movie figures already, but the Studio 86 look really cool. Yeah, they do, but nothing beats G1, right?
I got some of the new G1 86 ones. So I got Hot Rod and Starscream, and they're just not as good as the originals.
Are you talking about the G1 redos?
Yeah. Hold on.
We got him off of his chair, folks.
Like these ones. So
is that Studio 86?
They're not Studio Series, but they're like based on the movie.
Yeah.
So they're colored more to look like the movie, but they're just not as good, I don't think. And they're not made as good. Hot Rod there has missing pins. They didn't add in the pins for his shoulders, so they pop out easily.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, when we get into the action figure side of Transformers, I mean, we can take a closer look at those. But as it stands, that's our first episode of Transformers the movie with Noddzie. The link to Noddie's Instagram is in the description. Please leave a like on this video. Go over and check out Todd's Instagram. Great artist and my older brother. So if I don't say that, he's going to come and beat me up. Give me a noogie. Yeah. Going to come give me a swirly. But yeah, please do hit the like, become a member or a Patreon supporter if you want. No pressure to do so. But with that, Todd, I will say fare thee well. And if I can work out how to do the intro and the outro, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you on the next one. Adios.
Sounds good, man. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.